For 50 years, audiences have been getting one thing about Gena Rowlands completely wrong.
Really?
They watched her shake, scream, climb the furniture, and twist her face into something unbearable to look at, and they decided they were watching a crazy woman. They weren't.
I love you.
She told everyone they weren't, repeatedly for decades,
I had the hiccups a little while ago, but I got rid of them.
and nobody listened.
Sure.
What she was doing instead is the reason generations of actresses still study her frame by frame, and the woman herself came wrapped in platinum blonde Hollywood glamour, married to a man who would mortgage their house out from under their 3 children to make films nobody asked for. In a marriage so volatile, she once described its early days as discovering, morning by morning, that your husband doesn't love you anymore. Stick around, this one has teeth. If you only have 30 seconds, here's the bottom line of this video. Gena Rowlands built the most emotionally brave face in American film by doing the one thing beautiful women are trained never to do. She let herself look ugly, unhinged, exhausted, and very real. She did her own hair and makeup. She said point blank that glamour was never her game. And she turned getting older into the most powerful act of her entire career, instead of the thing that ended it. Her secret was never a product. But if you'd like a little more than 30 seconds, and trust me, you do, then follow me. Welcome. I'm Kira, and this is your beauty blueprint. I've spent a whole week buried in all things Gena Rowlands. The films, the interviews, the grainy footage of a marriage that doubled as an art project, to bring you her very essence and the best of what I found. And because this is, believe it or not, a beauty channel and not a film school seminar, I'm going to do 2 things for you before we're done. I'm going to take apart exactly how that face worked, the hair, the bone structure, the almost total absence of fuss, and then I'm going to show you how to find your own version of it. Because the Gena look was never about copying Gena. That, it turns out, was the whole point. One quick thing before we settle in. I had no choice but to design a Gena t-shirt for us. I just really love her and felt quite inspired. It took a while to finish because of my damn perfectionism, but I am so happy with how it turned out. They are super soft and ship super fast, and nothing makes me happier than to hear from you when you get one. I've now designed quite a few t-shirts featuring a whole lineup of the icons we've covered on both channels, and they're waiting for you in my store. Go adopt one. They get lonely. Now, pour yourself something. Gena was a Wisconsin girl, born and raised, so tonight we're drinking the Wisconsin drink, a brandy old-fashioned, sweet, a little stubborn, and stronger than it looks. That's about right for her, come to think of it. Settle in, and let's start where every good story starts, with who she was before the world had any idea what to do with her. Here's a little backstory. She was born Virginia Catherine Rowlands on June the 19th, 1930. There is a small, charming argument. Most reference books say she's from Madison, Wisconsin, while her obituaries and her own heart point to Cambria, the tiny village where she grew up. The likeliest truth is both, born in Madison and raised in Cambria, a speck of a place with about 600 residents that had been settled in the summer of 1845 by Welsh immigrants from North Wales. Rowlands descended directly from those settlers. And here's the detail I adore. As small as Cambria was, it cared about culture. The village funded a library, ran a Shakespeare club, and Jenna's mother thought nothing of driving all the way to Madison to act in plays. You can feel the entire rest of her life in that one image, can't you? For the astrology girls, and I see you, Gena was a Gemini. A June 19th Gemini sitting right on the cusp, which is why you'll occasionally catch a lazy source calling her a Cancer. It's wrong. Her birth time is actually on record 11:22 in the morning, which gives her a Virgo ascendant and an Aries moon. Now I'll be straight with you the way I always am. Astrology is a lens, not a law, so take all of this as flavor, but what delicious flavor it is. A Gemini sun, quicksilver and verbal and many-faced, and she literally said the best part of acting was getting to live many lives. A Virgo rising, that cool, composed, precise surface, and an Aries moon underneath it all, raw and combustible, and ready to set the room on fire. Even if you sat down to design a chart for a woman who looked like ice and detonated like a grenade, you'd struggle to do better. By the way, from this point in the video onwards, you'll be seeing me recreating a modern version of her look in the film Faces, which is my absolute favorite. So, her father, Edwin Rowlands, was a banker and a politician, Welsh stock. who sat in the Wisconsin State Assembly and Senate before taking a federal post under Franklin Roosevelt. Her mother, Mary Ellen Neal, was an artist and an actress who later performed under the marvelous stage name Lady Rowlands, and even turned up in several of her daughter's films. Gena once summed up the household in a line I think about constantly. "My mother was a feminist and my father was a male chauvinist," she said, "but they got along marvelously." Sit with that for a second. The whole engine of her work, composure married to chaos, control married to appetite, was already running in her kitchen before she ever picked up a script. She called herself a sickly, picky child who read everything she could get her hands on while she was ill, which was often, and the woman she measured herself against was Betty Davis. Her reasoning is perfect. In those days, she said, women were expected to be sweet and obedient, and Betty was always playing something that had a lot of bite to it. Bite? Hold on to that word. It's literally her whole career. She went to the University of Wisconsin, where she was, by every account, renowned for her beauty, and then she did the very un-40s thing and left in her junior year to study acting at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. Her parents didn't flinch. Her mother called the idea fascinating, and her father handed her one of the great parental blessings in recorded history. "I don't care if you want to be an elephant trainer," he told her, "if it makes you happy." Imagine being given that much room to become yourself. And all that in 1940s, mind you. In New York, she did repertory, summer stock, the whole apprenticeship. She made her Broadway debut under studying The 7-Year Itch, then took over the lead. She starred opposite Edward G. Robinson in Middle of the Night. She worked steadily through the live television of the 50s and made her film debut in 1958. She was, in other words, doing absolutely everything right. She had a plan, and then she walked straight into the worst possible thing that can happen to a woman with a plan. His name was John Cassavetes, and before I tell you what he did to her life, let me tell you what she first thought of him. Because it's so much better than a mere romance. "I was a woman with a plan," she said. "The only thing that could really stop me from succeeding was to fall in love. I wanted to be an actress badly enough that I would forego the comfort of love." So she saw this intense, dark-eyed young actor across a room, and her very first thought was not love. Her very first thought was, and I'm quoting her, "Oh damn, not this. This is just exactly what I don't want." John, meanwhile, took one look at her, turned to the actor standing next to him, and said, "That's the girl I'm going to marry." They married in 1954. They stayed married for 35 years, until the day he died. So much for her plan. Now, if you're already a little in love with her, and you should be, I have to warn you about something before we go any further. The marriage you're about to watch was not a fairy tale. It was the most productive, most destructive, most expensive love story in American independent film, and it nearly took her down with it. The question I want you holding in your head is this: how do you build a self that strong with a man that overwhelming? Keep that one close. We're getting there. And meanwhile, do me a tiny little favor and subscribe, because I make these every single week, and I would hate for you to miss the next one. Well, John Cassavetes is often called the father of American independent cinema, and the title is well earned. He made films the way nobody was allowed to make them. He financed them himself, mortgaged the house, took acting jobs in other people's movies, purely to fund his own, and shot in their actual Los Angeles home, with their actual friends and both of their actual mothers in the cast. And at the center of nearly every one of them stood Gena. He wrote roles specifically for her. One critic called her the veritable raison d'etre for many of his greatest movies. And that isn't flattery, that's just accounting. She described the life as tricky, but so exciting and wonderful, because you were doing what you really wanted to do. She also described working with him in terms that should make any of us reconsider our cushy little jobs. With John's scripts, she said, "It's like being an astronaut on the moon for the first time. The air is very light, you have to wear heavy boots, you have to push yourself out into areas that are very frightening." And then she gave us the line that tells you the whole truth of the marriage in 10 words. "As an artist, I love him. As a husband, I hate him." Because it was not easy. Of making one of their early films, Faces, she said the experience was like learning the first day that your husband doesn't love you anymore, the second day that he never loved you, the third that he hates you, and after that it gets bad. The work bled into the life, and the life bled into the work, until you couldn't find the seam. Their biographer, Ray Carney, has described fights more operatic than either of them ever admitted, stretches where one of them would temporarily move out, John's drinking and gambling. I'll flag that Carney and Rowlands were locked in a long feud over how John ought to be remembered, so his version leans dark. and we should take it with a grain of salt. But here is what nobody disputes. John Cassavetes was an alcoholic, and on February 3rd, 1989, he died of cirrhosis of the liver at the age of just 59. He once described his idea of a love story, and it doubles neatly as a description of their marriage. "My idea of a love story," he said, "is when two people get together and go through so much turmoil and so much pain just loving one another." They had 3 children, Nick, Alexandra, and Zoe, and every single one of them grew up to become a filmmaker. Of course they did, which brings us to the film. The One, A Woman Under the Influence, 1974. If you watch a single Gena Rowlands performance before you die, the consensus, and mine, is this one. She plays Mabel Longhetty, a working-class housewife and mother of 3 married to a construction foreman named Nick, played by Peter Falk. Mabel is coming apart. Her behavior grows stranger and more frantic. She is committed to an institution for 6 months, and she comes home to a family that has no idea how to hold her. And the origin of the whole thing is my favorite kind of story. Gena told John she wanted to do a play about how hard things were for women. He went away, came back, handed her a script, and said some version of, "Here, I wrote you a play." She loved it, and then she did the math on performing it 8 times a week, and answered, in the most Jane way imaginable, "I couldn't do this every night, and twice on Wednesday and Saturday," she said. Performed live, she figured she'd be dead in 2 weeks. Or, the version I like best, I'd have to be hospitalized. So he turned the play into a film, and getting it made was guerrilla warfare. The studios wouldn't touch it. Cassavetes was reportedly told that no one wants to see a crazy, middle-aged dame. So he mortgaged the house, and Peter Falk, Columbo himself, believed in it so completely that he put up $500,000 of his own money, turning down another film to do it, covering roughly half the budget out of his own pocket. The crew was half seasoned professionals and half film students. The house they shot in was a rundown rental near Hollywood Boulevard, and because there was no money for anything, Gena Rowlands did her own hair and her own makeup. Hold on to that fact, because we are coming back to it, and it will be the single most important beauty lesson in this entire video. When no distributor would take the finished film, the 3 of them, John and Gena and Falk, booked it into theaters and colleges themselves and showed up to talk to audiences in person. It eventually made about $6 million and became the biggest commercial success of Cassavetes' directing career. The gamble worked. It earned Gena her first Academy Award nomination. It went into the National Film Registry. Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars and later called it the greatest of all Cassavetes films. And Pauline Kael, the most powerful critic in America, tore it apart, calling it a murky ragmop movie, while being forced to admit, almost against her own will, that Rowlands' performance held enough for half a dozen tours de force, a whole row of Oscars. That is how good she was. Even the woman trying to bury the film had to stop and build her a monument. And now we arrive at the thing I promised you at the very top, the misunderstanding. For 50 years, people have watched Mabel and called her crazy, and called what Gena did playing crazy, and Gena spent the rest of her life gently and firmly telling them they had missed it. "I didn't think Mabel Longhetty was crazy," she said. "It's just that they have a different dream, a different thing that they wanted out of life, marching out of step with everyone else." Marching out of step. Not broken, just out of step. And then she said, "Personally, I don't think anyone is crazy who is cruel. To me, cruelty is crazy." And she located Mabel's entire jittering, climbing, overflowing body in one single thing: voicelessness. This woman couldn't speak, she couldn't express herself. Gena said, "The human spirit will not take it silently. If you cannot express something verbally, it will come out in some way." And her instruction to her own husband, the director, was a plea. "Please," she said, "let's not romanticize her martyrdom." This is why women have never been able to look away from Gena Rowlands. She wasn't acting crazy, she was acting honest, even though there is no room for real honesty almost anywhere. And how did she get there? Not through some mystical secret method. She was an inside-out actress. "I read the script 50 times, she said, "and I thought about it, and then I did it." She wasn't precious about any of it, and once said you don't necessarily have to have training, you just have to love to do it. But she also described the cost of becoming Mabel in a way that gives me chills. "You change your energy and allow another person to haunt your house, so to speak," she said. "It's like being a medium. It left me exhausted and depressed feeling." A medium? She let Mabel haunt her, and then she let her go, and it cost her something every single time. Now, if there is one more film I need you to add to your list after this, and the one that matters most for where we're going next. It's a 1977 film called Opening Night, because this is where Gena Rowlands looks aging dead in the eye and does not blink. And it's where this stops being a film history video and starts being about you and me, and the thing every woman watching has thought about at 3 in the morning. Stay with me. In Opening Night, she plays Myrtle Gordon, a famous stage actress, rehearsing a new play. The play is about getting older, and Myrtle despises it. She refuses to accept that she is now meant to play an older woman, as if that's a drawer you get filed into and never climb back out of. After she witnesses a young fan die in an accident, Myrtle begins to come apart, haunted, literally, by the ghost of the girl, which she slowly understands to be the ghost of her own younger self. "I'm looking for a way to play this part," she says, where age doesn't make any difference. And the cruelest line in the film is delivered by her ex, played by Cassavetes himself. "You're not a woman to me anymore," he tells her. "You're a professional." The film won Gena the Silver Bear at the Berlin Film Festival, and then it flopped so badly in America that it barely got a proper release until 1991. Only today has the culture finally caught up to what she was saying. Here's the detail that breaks me a little. Gena and John were 47 and 48 when they made it, and Myrtle's exact age is deliberately never stated. She refused to put a number on it. She just played the feeling. 2 years later, she made Gloria, earned her second Oscar nomination, and showed us a completely different woman. Gloria is a brassy ex-mob girlfriend who ends up protecting an orphaned boy from the mafia, and it is the most physically commanding thing she ever did. She runs through New York in Emmanuel Ungaro silk suits and sky-high heels, a gun in her hand, daring the world to try her. And listen to how she built the character, because it's a masterclass in self-styling. "When I had read the script," she said, "I knew I wanted a walk for her. A walk that said, they'd better watch out." She built an entire woman from the outside in, and she had an absolute ball doing it. "It was such a fantasy," she said. "I'm going to take on the whole mafia and beat them. It's just sort of an incredible power trip." The same woman who played the most fragile housewife in film history also played a one-woman army in couture. That range would be the blueprint, if only any of us could pull that off. So what was it exactly that made her unlike anyone before or since? It's a contradiction, and it is a gorgeous one. On the outside, a polished, silver blonde, movie star surface. On the inside, total, unguarded, sometimes frightening emotional exposure. The BFI's Jeff Andrew put it perfectly. She was beautiful, but lacked vanity, he wrote. Her head of ravishing blonde hair being her one concession to glamour. The critic Beverly Walker noticed that other champagne blondes of the era curdled into Hollywood's flirts and ice queens. And then she landed the line that explains the entire phenomenon. "But Gena," she wrote, "plays women the way women see themselves. The way we actually live inside our own days." Richard Brody of The New Yorker simply called her the most important and original movie actor of the past half-century plus. And when Cate Blanchett handed her an honorary Oscar, she said the truest thing anyone has ever said about her. There is, quite simply, no membrane between Gena and her audience. Soft, Nordic beauty, steel underneath. That's the recipe. The Guardian placed Gena squarely in the tradition of Barbara Stanwyck, Bette Davis, and Lauren Bacall. Women who staked a claim to the male prerogative of being sensual, dangerous, and damaged. Sensual, dangerous, and damaged. If that isn't a perfect mood board, I don't know what is. And she did all of this without ever once climbing onto a soapbox. She never branded herself a feminist filmmaker. She just pointed out that when she started, almost all of the women's parts were glamour girls, and then spent her career proving there was something else a woman could be on screen. To me, Isabelle Adjani and Isabelle Huppert came around thanks to Gena. She described Mabel as a woman who was totally vulnerable and giving, who had no sense of her own worth, and was completely mirrored in the eyes of men. That is a feminist x-ray of a generation of women. That, ladies, is the move. You don't always have to announce the revolution. Sometimes you just embody it and let everyone else catch up. After John died in 1989, plenty of people might have expected her to fade. She did the exact opposite. She worked with Woody Allen, with Jim Jarmusch, with Mira Nair. She won 3 Primetime Emmys and a daytime one. So if you ever see her called a 4-time Emmy winner, that's your breakdown. And then, in 2004, she reached an entirely new generation through a film her son Nick directed. You know the one. The Notebook. She played the older Allie, the woman losing herself to Alzheimer's. And the film became a juggernaut, grossed over $118 million worldwide, and introduced Gena Rowlands to millions of young women who had no idea they were watching one of the greatest screen actors ever. And then life delivered an ending so cruel it would have been thrown out of one of John's own scripts for being too much. In 2024, her son Nick revealed that Gena had been living with Alzheimer's for 5 years, the very disease she had just played in the film he directed. "We lived it, she acted it, and now it's on us," he said. Her own mother had died of it too. Gena Rowlands died in 2024 at her home in California at the age of 94. She lived many lives, exactly as she always said she would. Alright, drink refilled? Good. Because this is the part you probably came for, and everything we just talked about was kind of leading right here. Let's break down the real Gena Rowlands look. Then let's talk about how we can steal it. The raw materials first. Platinum to golden blonde hair, described over the years as silver blonde, as wheat gold, as full-bodied, worn through the 70s in soft, tousled waves. Strong, angular bone structure with high, architectural cheekbones. Pale, penetrating eyes that critics kept reaching for the word icy to describe, and a face so mobile and expressive that one writer said it could host a 3-ring circus. Well, you can absolutely learn from how she treated all of it, because here is Gena's entire beauty philosophy in one sentence she gave to W magazine when they asked her about her glamour. "Oh, honey," she said, "glamour was never my game," said by one of the most glamorous women of the 20th century. She had glamour completely at her disposal, but her world didn't revolve around it at all. On a woman under the influence. Remember, she did her own hair and makeup because there was no budget, and the result is one of the most devastatingly real faces ever committed to film, precisely because nobody over-manufactured it. There is barely a record of her working with makeup artists at all, and I think that is exactly the point. She was almost never polished into somebody else. She was just lit, and pointed at, and trusted. Now, this woman understood costume better than almost anyone alive, and she used it like a psychologist. Watch how she dressed 3 different characters, and you've got yourself a complete course in self-styling. For Mabel, the unraveling housewife, cardigans and plain everyday dresses, deliberately unglamorous. For Gloria, the one-woman army. Emmanuel Ungaro's tailored silk suits, shoulder pads, wrap dresses, and heels you could commit a felony in. Power dressing that announces that she means business. And for Myrtle, the aging star in Opening Night, now a pure glamour worn as armor. A yellow gown, oversized sunglasses she refuses to take off, stiletto nails. Same woman, 3 completely different visual languages. That is the lesson. Clothes are not decoration, but a framing. And then there is the aging of it, which is the heart of this entire blueprint. Gena aged on screen and in public, with a grace that made people say she looked better as she got older. And her own philosophy on it is, I think, the single best piece of beauty advice in this whole video. At a certain point in your life, she said, you can no longer depend upon the things that upheld you in your youth. You must accept your second self and embrace it. Not a faded, lesser version of your first self. A second self. She built an entire second act of her career on roles that had nothing to do with being young and pretty, and she collected 2 of her Oscar nominations in her 40s. I'll give you one honest, human counter note. According to one account, she fibbed about her age in interviews for years, which only means that even Gena Rowlands herself felt the exact pressure she rose so far above. And somehow that makes the rising more beautiful, not less. So how do you actually wear a little Gena Rowlands? Here's your real recreation. Pick your one concession to glamour, the way the hair was hers, and make it completely spectacular. Then strip everything else back, until what's left is just you, clearly, with nothing on your face fighting for attention. Skin that looks like skin. Eyes that look like they've seen something. Find the one feature you love, and let it be the main thing. And then, this is the hard part, and the Gena part, let your real feelings show on your real face. The most magnetic thing about her was never a cheekbone. It was the unmistakable sense that there was a whole, complicated, slightly dangerous person home behind her eyes. And if you're watching this, you already have that. You were just told, somewhere along the way, to smooth it over. But don't. Well, that is the beauty blueprint of Gena Rowlands. If she got under your skin the way she got under mine, tell me down in the comments which performance you're watching first, because I will read every single one of them. Give this a like, subscribe so the next icon finds you, and don't forget those t-shirts. Still waiting, still lonely. Oh well, Gena was never just acting. That was our blessing. Go on and take it. I've queued up the next chapter for you here. I'll see you soon. Love, Kira. Now go create your own blueprint.